hit the record button. So we're recorded, we'll get underway, let's get going. We've got some polls as we go, but please type in your questions, and if I do not answer the questions during the webinar, then I'll be sure to get answers to everyone following the webinar, so don't be too worried about that. Right, let's get going. Quick question, why go paperless? One of these will speak loudly to you. However, one of the reasons we stay paperless and one of the reasons that we keep pushing forward with taking more aspects of our office paperless is because we start to enjoy all of these benefits, and the list is probably much longer than what we're looking at here. But for example, why go paperless? Efficiency. It's phenomenal that we're able to standardize processes in a paperless environment. Go into a lot of firms, and let's just say a firm that has 4 tax partners. Surprisingly, taxes are prepared 4 different ways. Slightly different, but it's a huge frustration to your people. And when we're looking at the people issue in accounting firms, we've got to look at standardizing processes so that your people know exactly what's expected of them each and every time. So in a paperless environment, the standardized processes are a part of the whole process. So we just become much more efficient. We become much more flexible. Information's at our fingertips, and when we are in a paperless environment, and if we go the full cloud conversation, we become more flexible. We can work wherever we want, wherever we choose to work, and whatever time we choose to work. We're no longer restricted by the physical 4 walls of our office. And I've had a lot of members, a lot of 2020 members that are enjoying working from the ski fields, working from the beach, on vacation. They have everything that they need at their fingertips, so they're able to offer a much more flexible work environment to their people. Again, one of the key issues that we're seeing in the profession is people, and if we're able to offer them a flexible work environment, then we're going to be much better positioned to attract the highest performers. I'd also suggest that not only attract the highest performers, but we're able to recruit outside of, say, a 20 to 30, 40, 50 mile radius of our office. And we're seeing a few firms, it's not a huge number, I would say it's still below 10%, but increasing. They've got virtual work teams, and I know one of our members recruited a couple, she's in Phoenix, and she recruited a couple of greatly qualified CPAs. One's in Utah, one's in North Dakota, and she was able to do that because she was in a virtual environment. And all the working papers, all the documents, it's all in a paperless environment. Georgia, one of our members who's an enrolled agent, and we share some space, she just recruited someone in British Columbia. So she's able to push work, push the electronic documents, push the workload around, essentially around the country, to get it done wherever it needs to. Productivity, slightly different from efficiency, but productivity is a huge jump because there is less movement of paper and less movement of people. We estimate in, say, a less productive office, we're seeing 30 to 60 minutes of time being wasted, depending on the role, depending on the level, of getting up, walking down hallways, asking for files, moving files, trying to find where things are, and going down the hall, asking questions. The productivity just drops every time you get out of your chair, every time you have to go searching for a document. So one of the key reasons as to why go paperless is the uptick in productivity. And I don't want to sound as though I'm running a sweatshop here, but what I want is my people to come into the office and spend as much of their time at their desk. Reason being, as soon as they get their work done, they can get the hell out of this office, and I actively encourage that. And to do that, we need good technology, we need good platforms in place so that we can move work electronically, but also so we've got a nice management system in place so we can move work electronically. And then the last one, in my opinion, as I said, I'm sure there's many more, why go paperless? Client service. Significantly quicker turnaround and a greater level of responsiveness. And I won't ask people to admit to this, but maybe they can just nod in the comfort of their own office. Has there ever been a time where you've taken a call from a client and the client says, what's the status of this of my tax return? and you have basically put them on hold and run around the office like a mad person trying to find out what the status of the engagement is. You run into someone's office, they've moved it on to another person's office, you've tried to make sense of someone's chicken scratch on the routing sheet, client's still on hold, all of this, you finally get back to them and say, look, such and such is out and I need to check with them, so let me give you a call back tomorrow. And then you give them a call back tomorrow and with a status update. That is not good client service. And when we're seeing what is important to client service, or from the client's perspective, it is definitely this responsiveness, this quick turnaround. That's what clients want, and that's what clients, in all honesty, are prepared to pay a premium for. So if you are looking at the fees and clients are concerned about the fees, one of the ways in which we can definitely increase the perceived value is a quicker turnaround and a higher level of responsiveness. In this paperless office, we will be able to do that. So there's some of the reasons we go paperless. As I said, one will stand out to you, but the reason that we keep going down this path is all four. And also, as we will see, the technology has come a huge way that we're doing less and less of the heavy lifting, which we've always said is one of our goals, to do as less work as possible for the ultimate gain. So let's go. Paperless in a nutshell. Visually, what have we got? We've got the stuff, and we'll just call it stuff that comes in from the client, whether that's in a fertilizer bag, a shoebox, a shopping bag. Sometimes it does come in nicely ordered in folders and date-wise, etc. Very rarely though. Sometimes we're actually seeing more and more clients, particularly on the West Coast here, they're actually delivering their stuff to us electronically. So they're scanning it at home, they're scanning it at work, and sending it to us via the portal. So that's been interesting. Small subset of the group, but we are seeing it growing. So what we have had to do though is train our clients on how to get better scans, because our scan, our OCR, the whole process is dependent on the scan quality. So in some cases we've had to make recommendations on buying different scanners, upgrading scanners, etc. So it comes in from the client. Previously in our old office, before we went paperless, Tara, the Crawford of Frederickson Crawford CPAs, would come out, meet the client, shake hands, have a chat, and start putting the papers in order. The client would leave and Tara would still sit out there or stand out there putting things in order. Tara's billing rate is about $300, $350 per hour. There is no way that we can charge $300, $350 an hour for Tara standing out there for 30 minutes putting everything in order. So that goes away now, because everything comes in from the client. The administrative team scans it, counts the number of pages, confirms that we've scanned the right number of pages, and then that paper goes out to the back office in the file, ready for actually never to see the light of day again, in all honesty, assuming everything in the process has gone well. So that goes out the back, and then what happens is the administrative team scans it. They've scanned it in, they then upload it into what we call our Scan, Organize and Populate software. Comes back about 20 minutes later. Some of them are desktop-based or server-based, and so you will send them to the queue on your own server. It'll come back, and it comes back organized according to the Lacert tax organizer. So I'll use the example of Lacert because that's the tax software that we have in our office. But what we've got is, instead of Tara putting all those papers in order, the software has actually gone in, and we use 1040 Scan, has actually gone into last year's tax return and built a pro forma based on what we did for them last year. It's then organized everything according to that document tree. So we've got the W-2s all the way down to the miscellaneous documents, or the documents that it doesn't recognize. And what we've decided is we scan everything. And in all honesty, sometimes when we scan everything, we will come down with the document, we'll see a shopping list, an article that the client clipped for us, a ton of the donation receipts, all sitting down there in the miscellaneous documents, and it's really easy just to right-click and delete anything that we don't need. A lot of firms that we go into send it to a knowledgeable preparer to make a decision on what needs to be scanned and what doesn't. Again, not a good use of time, so why don't we just scan everything and then hit the miscellaneous documents, anything not recognized, we can right-click and delete. So a good tip there, just to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible, and it's the best use of people's time as possible. So in our paperless environment, we've got multiple monitors, and I'm currently looking at 3 monitors. So I've just got 2 there, but on one side I've got the working papers, and on the right-hand side I've got the tax software. On my 3rd monitor I've got last year's tax return, so that's also there. That's where the 3rd monitor is going. If I was going to get a 4th, I might have my fantasy football, maybe my email or practice management, but you can see more and more monitors, we can put more and more items on there. So a couple of questions have come in from Greg and Terry, and I just want to talk about the process or the workflow currently, and I'll get to those questions shortly. So we complete the tax return in a completely paperless environment. So previously we would have the pile of working papers in front of us, and we'd have our check marks and tick marks, and we'd run tapes and make notes on the working papers, and then we'd file the tax return. Once we'd filed the tax return, we would then put it in the file and put it in the filing cabinets out back. We're no longer working with those working papers in a paper environment. We're actually working with them in a digital environment. So once we file the tax return, we've finished working with the working papers, it goes into our document management system. And then, so that's stored in our document management system. All the annotations, all the notes, they're all sitting there, which is phenomenal for us. And then we have to distribute the information to our clients. So that's the tax return has to go digitally to our client, because the last thing we want is to then have to, a paperless environment, all come to a grinding halt because clients will only accept paper. It's actually been interesting, even some of our oldest clients have made us go into this paperless environment. So please do not have your misconceptions about what clients want, because the key thing is you are the expert in the tax preparation process. You tell your clients what they want. That's a critical thing here. There may be a couple of exceptions, but as soon as we start making exceptions for the majority, this whole paperless process falls over. So what I'm going to do is we've got to do some polls because we've got to do CPE, and I just also want to make sure that you haven't fallen asleep. So let me ask, when do you scan your documents for tax preparation? So questions up on there, the polls up on there. When do you scan for tax preparation? So a couple of options. We scan on the front end prior to beginning the work. Middle option, we scan on the back end once we've prepared the return. And then the 3rd option there is we're a paperful office and we want to make the change. Some of you might be a paperful office and don't want to make the change, but I didn't put that as an option for you there. Okay, so Terry asks, does it only work with Lacert? And I'm assuming that means the OCR technology. No, Terry, it works with the major tax platforms. 1040 Scan does anyway. And then also the other providers, CCH and Thompson and Lacert, they do have their own Scan, Organize, Populate products as well. So depending on your tax software, and we'll look at a couple of the different providers, depending on your tax software, you'll want to look at 1040 Scan, and then you'll also want to look at what your current provider provides. And I'll give you my opinion, pros and cons of those as we go along, but it doesn't, not just with Lacert. Greg asks, as we're finishing up and what we'll do is we'll manage the poll and share it with everybody. Oh, no, I don't want to manage the poll. What did I do there? Sorry. I want to close the poll. So we've got 89% voted. I'm going to share that with you folks so that you can see what the results were. And then, Greg, you've asked the question, Lacert Pro Series has stopped supporting their DMS system, adopting SmartVault as a replacement. How does this affect your paperless process, or does it? Greg, it doesn't, because we just choose a different document management system. It's a blip, a hurdle that we have to overcome, but in all honesty, SmartVault is a much better document management system than that old dog that was Lacert DMS. I'll be very honest about that. It was Yeah, it was old and lethargic, and I'm glad that they've got rid of it. But yeah, we've got a little blip to get over and go to Smart Vault. And Greg, if you want to give me a call and have a one-on-one conversation about the various document management systems that are out there as an alternative, then we can definitely do that. Because depending on your tax software, there will be options that are integrated with your tax software, and then there will also be standalone options as well. And I know Office Tools Professional has a document management system. Greg mentioned Smart Vault as well. So they're all there also. So there's a number of document management systems out there, and the document management conversation is probably one that that is worthy of a 1-hour webinar in itself. So it doesn't affect the paperless process. But yeah, it's a little hurdle to overcome, and it's a bit of a pain in the you-know-what, Greg, as you're probably experiencing. But make sure we don't go back into a paper environment is the key lesson there. So, paperless in a nutshell, that's the process. Let's keep moving on. Let's look at our hardware considerations. We need good scanners. As I said, the quality of our OCR and Scan Organize and Populate is really dependent on a good quality scan. And so while the Fujitsu ScanSnap, or some of the ones at the $200 and $300 price point, talk about lots of bells and whistles, the scan quality isn't as great. And so what I'd probably prefer to do is make an investment in a better scanner, and that's probably at about the $800 to $1,000 price point. And the Fujitsu 7430 is, we just purchased a couple of those before last tax season, and a phenomenal workhorse. I think it's the 7430, and that replaces the 7160, or the older Fujitsu model, which is actually the one that's that you can see on your screen there. So a good scanner, that'll set you back about $1,000. Look for something on Amazon so that you can find what you need. Other hardware considerations, well, actually, on the good scanners, on scanners, the next point on scanners is, where do we put the scanners? We used to have them on every desk, and that was expensive. And also, what would happen is I would have to teach a certain partner, not naming any names, but Chris Fredrickson, how to use the scanner every time he wanted to scan something. So what we decided is, Chris scans something once or twice a week. In all honesty, it's better that he just drops it in a to scan basket in the administrative section, and then the administrators can scan and let Chris know once it's been scanned. Chris was worried, well, I'm not going to get things immediately. If he needs it immediately, they scan it immediately, but more often than not, what's getting scanned isn't critical as a part of the process. So what we've done is we've put the good quality scanners on the administrators' desks. They have them. And then throughout the office, we've got a couple dotted around so that if people do need to scan something, they can get over, get it scanned, and get it into the system lickety-split. We've actually put those scanners at some of our stand-up desks so that if people do want a break, we avoid the all-in-one scan, fax, photocopy, print, make cups of coffee, just because as soon as one of those functions goes down, every function goes down. So that's certainly something that we want to avoid. And then also we did have one of those big heavy-duty scanning things, but that just created bottlenecks. So when that was ready to retire, we didn't replace that as essential scanning. So we've just, I think in our office of about 10 people, we've probably got 4 or 5 of the Fujitsu, of the good ones, and then we've got a couple of the other ones that we do take out on the road with us if we need to. So that's the scanning conversation. Spend a little bit of money on the front end, and your whole paperless experience will be significantly better. Next, multiple monitors, as I've already mentioned. More the merrier. That's Chris's desk there, and he has them all portrait. In my office, I've got 1 portrait and 2 landscape, and so that just works for me better. So look for monitors that you can rotate, because there are times when, particularly when we're working with working papers and last year's tax return, the portrait actually works pretty well. But more the merrier. So if you've got, I'm not even going to ask, because I'm assuming we've at least got 2 on our desks. If you've got 2, give yourself a treat. Buy a third. If you've got 3, test it out and see what happens. Maybe coming into the some of the fall deadlines, maybe purchase one, and if you don't get the bump that you're looking for, send it back. But we can get monitors for for $200, $300, $400, and they'll pay for themselves in the first tax season. Let's get these on everyone's desk. And as I said, if we're only on singles, let's go to doubles. Doubles, we might be ready to go to triples. Software. So we've got the hardware in place. Now we've got to look at the software. We need annotation tools. So because we're used to a paperless environment, or a paper environment, we need to have some sort of tools that allow us to write on the working papers, to make our notes, to annotate, to run calculators. So we need some annotation tools. One of them, an inexpensive option, is Tick Time Calculate. But basically, Tick Time Calculate is an Adobe plugin. So that assumes that you've got Adobe Standard or higher licensing. So while Tick Time Calculate is inexpensive, we do need the Adobe licensing, and a lot of accounting firms already have that. But it's a useful tool because it allows us just to make annotations on every single electronic document. So anything that we scan, we can write notes on it, we can run calculators on it, we can do so many different things on it, which is pretty cool. The next annotation tool that we've got, and this is really a working paper management tool, this is an option called SP Binder, and that comes with 1040 Scan. The SP Binder allows us to manipulate documents very effectively and very efficiently, but it also allows us to move documents around dynamically. And what I mean by that is when we're in an Adobe environment, the documents are static. So when the client sends another document to us, we've got to print that to PDF and then go in and I think we edit, insert page, extract page, delete page, rename the bookmark. There's a lot of steps involved, particularly when the client gets us information late. And I'm sure that's none of your clients, but every now and then one of our clients gets a K1 to us a little late, maybe some amended brokerage statements, etc. So we found the SP Binder to be really effective at managing the documents, and that's been really nice for us so that we can work in what we call a dynamic environment with all of the documents. Another treat with the SP Binder is we're able to use live Excel spreadsheets. Live Excel spreadsheets, live Word documents, it's quite interesting what we're able to do in that SP Binder environment. So that's definitely an option. And then if you do go down the Thomson route or the CCH Autoflow route, they will have an Adobe plugin that they use. But you'll see pretty quickly that changing, adding, extracting pages to those Adobe documents can be quite cumbersome. And I'm not sure if Lindsay Gardner's on this call. But I remember that she said we went back to back-end scanning because it was just really cumbersome. Every tax return, throughout the preparation of the tax return, probably had anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes of just additional management manipulation. When the client got stuff to us late, when we had to make changes to an Excel spreadsheet, print it to PDF, insert it, etc., just became cumbersome. So we moved them over to the SP Binder, and I'm not sure if she is on this webinar, but I believe her experience has been positive. So SP Binder allows us to annotate and manipulate the various documents that are out there. Then we've got our OCR technology. Now, a couple of years ago when we first started using OCR, the O stood for occasional character recognition, but now the technology has come leaps and bounds. And with the OCR technology, we scan, the technology organizes the return, and then the technology populates the return. So the major players out there are 1040 Scan, which is what we use and what we'll be looking at a little bit later. Who is the vendor for SP Binder Mark? It's SurePrep. SP Binder is a part of the 1040 Scan process. So that's what they use to manage the working papers. We've also got CCH Autoflow, and I've heard good things about CCH Autoflow. Anyone that knows me, you know that I'm quick to bash any of the big providers that are out there, but I've heard good things from our members that are using CCH Autoflow. Intuit Tax Import, haven't heard great things, and I haven't heard great things about the Thomson product. And if you have had positive experiences with those, please let me know. The other ones that are out there are Gruntworks, which was recently acquired by Drake, so I'm just not sure whether or not they'll be supporting the other areas or the other tax programs. And then also Companion. but interestingly, Copanion recently admitted that there were human eyes confirming data entry. So I'm not quite sure what that means from a disclosure standpoint, nor but basically they had teams in India that were verifying the information and making any changes before it went back to the client. So that's a little bit tricky, and they just recently admitted that. And then the CCH Autoflow, Tax Import, Gruntworks, they all require that Adobe plugin. So they'll all require A, the Adobe licensing, but then B, the additional tick time calculate. So that's the software. Let's keep going. What I might do again, let's do another poll. What OCR technology have you used or trialed previously? So again, just to make sure that you haven't nodded off and I haven't bored you to tears, just let me know what you've used and just give us a little bit of feedback. And obviously if you haven't, well, what I realized there is I didn't put we haven't used any option. So I do apologize for that. I realize that we're probably not going to get 100% or anywhere near it, but not to worry. We'll just keep that open for a little bit longer. We've got plenty of poll questions, so don't be too worried about that. But we've got 70% voted. Let's close that now because we've got a lot of material to get through. We'll share that. Nobody's used Copanion. That's a good thing. Well, I mean, it's not a bad product, but they're a little bit, what's that word? I can't remember. Anyway, so the major player products that are out there, a quarter of us on 1040 Scan, 16% on Gruntworks. So let's hide that. One of the things that I do like about 1040 Scan, one of the reasons that we use it, is that the maker of 1040 Scan, which is SurePrep, they use it for about 40,000 returns that they prepare. So the good thing about it is the people using it, their CPAs, their CAs, are sitting right next to the development team. So they're able just to go next door and say, here's a document we haven't seen before, the software's doing this, it's buggy doing this, can you work it out, can you improve it? Whereas the CCHs, the Lacerts, the Thompsons, typically just buy a product, create a bridge, and then say it works. So one of the things that we've seen, and also what we do like is, I want to make sure that we can recommend best of breed, and sometimes if a better scan product comes out and you're tied to CCH, then we can't make the shift. So that's one of the reasons that we do. Greg, good question. Does 1040 Scan support Pro Series? I don't believe that they do. Okay, here's Tick Time Calculate. Here is what we're looking at from and Melvin missed a poll question. We're outside getting a caffeine hit. No problems, we've got plenty of poll questions, so don't be too worried. What we've got here is we've got just a visual representation of Tick Time Calculate. So we've got the full version of Adobe here, and as you can see we've got the ribbon up the top here that allows us to make annotations. So if we are in an Adobe environment, Tick Time Calculate is probably one of the best plugins that we're seeing. So it allows us to make extensive comments if we need to, or alternatively just a small text box there. Typewriter, what we can do, arrows, check marks, some nice calculators, etc. And then on the left-hand side, we can easily rename, insert. But again, if we do want to add new pages, we're going to have to edit, extract the page that we're replacing, insert the new page. So it is a little bit cumbersome, but if we are in the Adobe environment, Tick Time Calculate, a very nice Adobe plugin that we can use. Let's go over to the OCR conversation, and let's look at, this is 1040 Scan, and you can see the systems that it does support. And Greg, unfortunately Pro Series isn't there, so you might have to look at Lacert's product. But we've got the main ones, Pro Systems, Go System, Lacert, and UltraTax. It automatically organizes all the documents into a tax binder. So rather than Tara doing that like she used to, this all happens in 20 minutes or less, and that has been phenomenal. And for about $10, there's no way that we here in just north of San Francisco can actually afford to pay anyone with the smarts to do that. So the technology has really improved the efficiency of the process, but it's also improved our profitability of the engagement. So two critical things there. Within 20 minutes, all those documents are organized. We don't necessarily need all the documents, but we basically wait until we're at about 70% of what we're expecting before we scan it. And that seems to work pretty well for us. So once we've scanned it, organized it, verified it, we then export the data to the tax return. So that is the actual populate section. You might not be ready to go down that populate section just yet. You might be thinking that, oh, hang on, let's just look at our internal processes. Let's just take our baby steps. And so what I definitely recommend for you to do is do the scan and organize part of the process. So that's when all the stuff comes in from the client, goes into the tax file, builds the pro forma based on what you do, and organizes the documents accordingly. So that's really nice. One of the things that we also like with 1040 Scan is we don't have to put separator sheets in. I know some of the other programs are out there require separator sheets between the various components of the organizer. So that's one of the reasons that we've gone with 1040 Scan as well, is we don't have to insert those separator sheets and scan sheets. Another thing as well is that 1040 Scan's probably, strangely enough, has been the one that handles the organizer the best. So what we do is we actually scan the organizer with the documents. Sometimes the client fills in the organizer, sometimes they don't, but typically we'll scan the organizer in as well and set some rules accordingly as to what to go off. What does it recognize? The largest document coverage in the accounting industry, we are seeing that from 1040 Scan, although that being said, CCH's document coverage list is improving, and we've got W-2s, 1098s, federal organizer pages. As I mentioned, it actually reads those, and if your client does take the time to fill them in, it will read them. Some firms I know actually fill the organizer in as a bit of a review step, and we can do that as well. A lot of charitable contribution letters are also being recognized, which is interesting. Grantor letters, and upwards of 300 brokerage statements there. So the major houses, they're all recognized, and the feedback from members has been is that it does a phenomenal job on the Schedule D population. So what we want to do, if we're comparing, say, a 1040 Scan versus what Thomson puts out or what CCH puts out, let's just make sure we're going with the group that has the widest or largest document coverage in the industry. Here's the workflow example in a little bit more detail, where we source documents from the client, scanned. It is in that PDF environment. We submit the documents through OCR. Here is where we verify the documents. We verify the data that it's picked the documents up, it's put it in the right spot, and then we verify that it's reading the right numbers. The SP binder is generated, and we can move those documents around. We can add more documents. We prepare the tax return, review the tax return, sign the tax return. Got some really great software that'll help this whole engagement letter and 8879 signing process, and then we print the SP binder to PDF for storage. So we're not actually in a PDF environment or a static PDF environment until that final step, which is something that we haven't seen before. Typically we're in a static PDF up here in that initial phase. Good thing is we actually don't need the full version of Adobe. We just need the Adobe Viewer if we're in the 1040 Scan product. So let's have a look here. Basically what we've got, this is the dashboard that we manage everything, and you can see here we've got the status, client ID, what are the different services that we're using, are we using lead sheets, which is an interesting one, which is good, and then obviously the tax here. So we've got a nice little management tool here that allows us to know the status of returns for the whole office. So when we go back to that management and efficiency and productivity conversation, here is where we're managing a lot of the workflow or a lot of the status sections. So we submit it to 1040, 1041 source documents in the file room. Here's what's happening. We're seeing the source document file go up there. We're also seeing where the tax file is saved. So we're identifying what is the tax file, and they both go up to 1040 Scan so that the appropriate pro forma can be built. This is what it looks like when it comes back. So everything on that left-hand side, the index and review tree, is all there on the left-hand side. And then in this section here, we've actually got the source document. So what we can see is the source document right there in front of us. So that allows us to verify the information very quickly. What I also like Oh, I'll go back one, sorry. What I also like is that we can drag and drop documents that a client emails to us separately. We often get an Excel spreadsheet maybe with some Schedule C, maybe some itemized deductions, and we can drag and drop that into the appropriate parts of the return. So again, when we're in with an Adobe plugin, we do lose a lot of flexibility there with a lot of the additional documents that come late or that are outside of the PDF format. So this has been good. What we're also seeing is a lot of markups, so a lot of annotation there where we're trying to replicate what's going on in the paper environment. So a lot of markups, check marks here from our review process. So this return, we're actually in the third level of review. So that's quite exciting. Down here, we've got a wonderful section where we're looking at capturing as much of the data from the preparers. What are the questions? What do we need to email to the client? What are the answers, the responses? So we can add a note from the preparer and the reviewer can add a response. So now it becomes quite a knowledge base of how this return was prepared. So that's pretty exciting that we capture a lot of that information that typically walks out the door at 5 o'clock every night. Nice section here where we can alphanumeric calculator, so copy tape portals, and we can just tape that directly onto any of the documents. So again, something which is a really nice feature that we can do text box, alphanumeric calculators. Again, so when somebody comes to review, we're able to see everything that went through the preparer's mind. Well, as much as in the preparer's mind as possible. Dockable components, so we can move all of these over to the various parts of our multiple monitors, and just a bigger version here where we've got our leads, notes, and forms. So there might be a quick note, it could be something going onto the permanent file. We might also be looking at an email to the client for the missing documents. Actually, I haven't mentioned that. What typically happens in your accounting practice when the client brings their stuff in at let's just say end of January, early February, what we know is it typically goes out back and goes out back to marinate for a couple of weeks while we're busy getting our March 15 deadline under control. Then when we come around, say maybe the third week of March, fourth week of March, we send our clients a missing documents email. What's the client's reaction? They are infuriated because they're saying, what the hell have you been doing for the last 6 weeks? Sitting on it? Whereas now, everything comes in from the client, it scans, and within 24 hours, they get a missing documents email because the software has recognized what we did for them last year and has built a missing documents email. So we're able to generate that within 24 hours. Well, actually able to generate it within 20 minutes, but we obviously need to make sure our clients perceive value and that we're working away. So we wait till the next day to send that email. Not that the client's going to get us all the information, because typically they'll reply with, yeah, I'm waiting on that K1, or I'm still waiting on that, they're finalizing things, or etc. So, but it's really that customer service that changes dramatically as a result. And here we go. So we can link to any notes, any work papers, Excel, so that the note or the question can be linked directly to the working paper, so that when the preparer or when the reviewer comes in to review the note, we can link directly to the source document that we're looking at. I like this, that the preparer and the reviewers are alerted to uncleared and unreviewed notes. So whenever a preparer adds a note, you have to close each individual note. So a real nice audit trail there of exactly where we are on the return. And I also like that we can add permanent notes to the working papers and roll them forward for next year. Again, capturing as much information as we can in those working papers is critical. Your efficiency will go through the roof. Once the tax return is finalized, now, this is just the scan and organize. We may not have actually used the populate section. We're going to look at populate momentarily. But once the working papers are done, the tax return, and we might have just been populating the tax return manually on one of our other monitors. But what happens here is we're able to now send, remember that last step where we finalize the PDF. We've got a couple of options, and here's what we're doing in our office. The first one, that is printed to PDF with all the information on as possible, the notes, the bookmarks with stamps, everything. That goes into our document management system for all eternity, so that when we come back and do the return next year, we see what we did, the notes, the permanent notes, the preparer's questions, the client's questions, all of that's all there. But then also what we do is we print a copy of this bookmarks only and load it into our client's portal. So what we're doing now is, and this is where this is helping us increase our portal implementation with our clients. We're saying that the tax return's ready for filing. And we have stored all of the documents in your portal, all nicely ordered. What I would suggest is just leave them there, and if we ever need access to them, they're at your fingertips. So that's been a nice added benefit for our clients. And what we're now doing is we're now saying, would you like us to shred the documents that we have? Now that we've been doing it for a couple of years, a lot more clients are much more comfortable with us scanning. And in fact, we've got a couple of member firms that have shredding parties on April 16, April 17. Basically, it's a party for the staff and any of the clients that want to bring anything that they need to shred. And that's 3 and 4 years down the track once we've got all of our processes. But we've got a large number of members that clients have these working papers in their portal for all eternity. Again, just a nice value add there. So once we've, now let's go over to the populate conversation. And once we've scanned and organized, if we've signed up for the populate, what we're doing here is we're seeing the source document up top, and then down the bottom is what's actually being recognized. So it's recognized the Walt Disney Company. It's recognized the figures. It's recognized the identification numbers. But these are live cells. So if by chance it doesn't recognize it, or maybe the scan quality is not there, or you know what, it's not 100% foolproof, every now and then some of these items will not be recognized. We can go in and change it. So that's what we need to make sure we're doing, is we're verifying the information. Brilliant thing is there's a great audit trail within the system. And what we've seen in some firms is it actually tells you the timestamp. It actually tells you the timestamp that the document was reviewed. And what we've seen where this has fallen over is the first 5 pages we're spending maybe 3 and 4 minutes reviewing. And after 5 pages, the reviewer is confident that it's picking up everything correctly and just going next, 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 next. When we go and look at the audit trail, we can say, Christine, how come it's taken you 3.5 minutes to review page 1, 3 minutes to review page 2, 15 seconds to review pages 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Did you review them, or did you just make the assumption that it was correct? So we do need to review, but I'm going to say that's not somebody at $60, $70, $80 an hour. That's someone with some good attention to detail that can come through and verify that it picked up the right information. This software is smarter than some of our first and second years. I'll be totally honest with you, because what it's doing here, those double check marks, it's actually doing the cost basis calculations. And it is 100% confident that it's got that correct. The yellow ones are uncertain fields, so we can go through and make changes there. And for whatever reason, it picked up the wrong number, but the verifier can actually make the changes as they need to. So they can go through each page that is scanned, and in the green, it's going to identify what they've scanned, and I think to a 99 percentile or accuracy. And then yellow, or then there's also a red as well, that it just didn't pick it up and we've got to put it in. The guys at SurePrep also have a verification process that if you don't have the manpower to do your own verification, they've got a team that is able to verify the information for you. So this might be a way that if we are having people issues, that we can get over that. Ernie asks, we use UltraTax in the cloud. Will this work with that software? Great question, Ernie. The taco truck just arrived. It depends on whose cloud you use. If you're using UltraTax's cloud, they will not let you host this software because it's not their product. Whereas if you're in a cloud environment such as Cloud9 or Eccentric, you can host anything you want. But if you're in Thompson's cloud or CCH's cloud, they're not going to let you host another product. that doesn't have the CCH label on there. So again, another reason why we've gone with the software agnostic provider. So all good questions there. Next steps, what I'd encourage you to do, and let's have a poll question as well, is would you be willing to try? So let's launch that again for CPU. We've got a few more polls, so don't be too worried if you've ducked out. We're already using OCR technology, which is good. If you're not using 1040 scan, I would probably suggest running a few. And I think with our deal, we've actually got a free trial, so we can just test and see how they differ, how they the accuracy, the ease of functionality. So let's close that poll. We've got 86%, and we'll share it. So we've got, would you be willing to try? 20% of the 86% that replied are using it, and then the rest are willing to give it a go. So that's phenomenal news, folks. I'm delighted, and let us know what additional questions you do have. So we've got 15, well, let's try and wrap this up in 10 minutes, but we've got, that's part of the paperless process. And what I want to go on to now is how we, once the papers are finalized, how do we transfer our documents to and from clients? And we've been talking with the folks at C Paperless, and if you've been using any of those, you'll see some significant improvements. First of all, paperless transfer to clients, a bit of a pain in the you-know-what actually, because we're trying to do it every which way but loose. Some clients want it by the portal, some clients want it by email, but we know that we can't email tax returns without a level of encryption. Make a note, do not email a tax return without a level of encryption if that's what's currently going on in your office. Some people want it paper, some people want it by carrier pigeon, so some people want it put on a disk. But what we see is, and so what happens then is we've got 5 or 6 different ways in which we deliver tax returns and 5 or 6 different accounts that we have to log in to manage that process. So basically what's going on is we've got all these different user accounts, we're paying all these different providers, and we're losing those efficiencies because we're supporting all these different platforms. Also, what we're seeing more and more of, and I'll just go to this next graph here, which is actually quite good, because some portals, for example, they have web platform issues. Some encryption softwares won't work with the Mac environment. But a big one is definitely the portals that if your client is a Chrome user, if your client is a Firefox user or a Safari user, there might be some issues there. Also, if you're trying to get a document to a bank, their security system probably won't actually allow you to log in to allow a client to log into their portal from the bank. Even if you send a link to the portal to the banker, more often than not, their security system won't actually allow that to happen. So the only option there for banks is an encrypted PDF, or the client has to download the tax return via their portal, print it off, and deliver it. So again, we've got just inefficiencies because we're not able to streamline our processes. So that's what we've liked with C Paperless's SafeSend. It's an Outlook plugin and a very slick process that allows file preparation, automatic password management, because we can encrypt files, we can send them to a portal, the client can use quite similar to Dropbox, they call it a drop-off. So they're basically within one platform, they've allowed you to do all of the ways in which your client can drop it off. And so what that means is your administration team doesn't have to manage all these different accounts and think, oh, ABC company, they prefer it via the portal. Which portal are they using? What's their login information? Client calls in and says, I've forgotten my password, how do I deal with it? Then we've got to go and have a look at, anyway, you get the picture, and you probably are nodding your head as to what happens, or at least your administrators are. If they're sitting in on this webinar, they're nodding their head, and they know what a level of frustration it is. So they've got simple send, client drop-off, portal, Outlook plugin for automatic PDF encryption, but also that automatic password manager, which is really cool, that we can just send the client a link and they can reset it themselves. And it's $250 a year per user and less. So first user or one user, if you are a purely sole practitioner, it's $250 a year for all of the above. Now I know CCH probably gives you a free portal, your website probably gives you a free portal, but what I want is the best of breed workflow practices. So we've got to look at, is this the best portal? Is this the best management of processes? So let's make sure we do question whether or not. So for one user it's $250 a year, and then it just comes down. And so I think if you're at 50 people in the firm, it's $60 a user, which I understand is a fairly big chunk of change, but over the course of the year, you are really going to see a dramatic uptick in productivity from a transferring of documents, and also we'll sleep a little safer at night knowing that all of the file transfers are secure. Also, you might have a conversation with Paperless. You might also realize that not everyone in the office needs it, but maybe just all the administrators, and so different options there as we do roll it out. But just speak with Paperless. But $60 a user a year. And I understand if you've got 300 people in the office, that's a big chunk of change, but it will pay for itself in the first month. So they've got a number of solutions available for you, the daily transfers, and then they've also got their seasonal transfer add-ons, which we can do as well. So definitely, how does SafeSend compare with Citrix? ShareFile, good question, Bob. It's probably a hell of a lot cheaper, and probably a hell of a lot less clunky. The other aspect of it, which I'll be showing you soon, is a management process and an audit trail. You can see what they've clicked on. You can see if they've opened it. So we're able to manage the sharing of files all from one interface. So that's probably something that we do want to look at. And Bob, I'd probably have to go in and have another look at ShareFile. It has been a while since I was in there. So let's have a conversation when I see you in Boston next week, or no, next month. So let's keep going. E-signatures. This is really big development in the industry at the moment. CCH in their studies, what they've identified is it takes about, for example, 8879 costs about $13 to $18 per tax return. When we print out the 8879, when we send it to the client to have them sign, they've got to fax it. So just the man hours. I won't say paper's that expensive, but paper's expensive. Mark Sullivan, sounds as if you've lost audio. Hopefully you've come back online. Anyway, got to keep going. We are recording, so don't be too worried. 8879, just tracking that whole management process is a real frustration from firm administrators, and it is costing you $13, $18 a return. So let's just think, if you've got 200 tax returns, doing some very quick math, we're looking at about $2,500 right there. This year, the IRS authorized e-signs, e-signatures for 8879 using a knowledge-based authentication system. So that's pretty exciting. So what we'll want to be looking at is adding e-signatures to our workflow processes this year. Let's make sure the provider's IRS compliant in that it's knowledge-based authentication. Let's keep going. But what we're seeing, which is really interesting, is it's not just the 8879. What about all of your engagement letters, your 7216 consent letters, W-9s, payroll processing, credit card authorizations? What if we were able to have electronic signatures for all of these, have all of the signatures in one spot, all of the documents in one spot? What about our internal documents? Employee contracts, partnership agreements, routing sheets. The list is endless. So it's actually pretty exciting what we're able to do. Now, unfortunately, not all states are at the party yet, but we will get there, so don't you worry about that. But there's the list of states, and actually, as it turns out, I've got to update this list because just very recently, California approved electronic signatures with knowledge-based authentication for the for 8879. So already this list of states is out of date. So definitely check with your state. But that's the list. This was probably at the start of the month where we were. But California's adopted, so we're all good on that front. Authentication questions, this would be, for example, this isn't knowledge-based authentication because, in theory, anyone that works with this company could probably work out what the EIN is. So I just wanted to demonstrate the difference between knowledge-based authentication and other authentication. So this is just the normal one. This just basically confirms. So this might just be for the engagement letter. They just want to confirm that it's the right user, and there'll be an audit trail of the number that they submitted and who they did. Knowledge-based authentication, this is different, and this is why it's slightly more expensive than the just normal e-signature, because once we plug in the client's key details, it goes into its database, and you will recognize these types of questions whenever you go for a credit report or anything along those. Which of the following addresses have you been associated with? So the client has to answer 2 or 3 of these questions to confirm that they are the right person. So this is knowledge-based authentication, whereas the one previously is just to make sure you're the right person that should be receiving this. And if it arrived to you unknowingly, you can't get into it even if you try. Lovely little dashboard here where we've got welcome to the Kalen and Hunt tax return processing system. So this is what the client would see. So the client is ready for review, print filing instructions, review and approve your tax return, sign your e-file authorization form, print your estimated payment vouchers, review and process your invoice. All happening from one interface. This is new, guys, and this is pretty exciting. Actually, I should have had a document in there. So basically what we can do is we can review and approve the tax return electronically. So there'll be a PDF document there that's able for us. And then once the client's ready for it, they can sign the e-file authorization form electronically. Look at this signature management system. And I would imagine that some of the administrators are squealing with delight at the possibility of this signature management system. So what we've got here is the document type, and we can filter by that. So imagine if that was all of your engagement letters. So who's signed them? Who's still out for signature? Let's send a reminder. Let's control everyone that needs out for signature needs a reminder. Let's just send that all automatically. Let's just send that all in one foul swoop. Talking with firms that are implemented just the e-file signature on the signature on the engagement letters. They have been absolutely delighted with the process. So look at this as a management system for that whole signature process. We've got some guys working on the roof, so apologies if you hear some thumping around. As a management system, as I said, and so we've got whether that's our engagement type or our document type is our e-file authorization, our engagement letter, our 7216, all managed from one central location. Currently, Carol's got this quite complex system out there in the front with all of the different forms that a client needs to sign, and if Carol's not in that day, I have no idea how it works. I've got to be honest. So as we've moved over to this, I can log in and just see where we are for everything. And if a client calls in and says, what's the status? We're waiting for an e-file signature. I can just send that reminder immediately from the platform. So that's pretty exciting. Got to keep moving. Look at this, guys. $3.50 per, and depending on the number of e-signatures that you do for the 8879, $3.50. CCH is coming in at about $5. And if you actually went out and purchased the the software required for e-signatures, and that's done by Adobe, you're going to be needing licenses for every user that has it. It's very expensive, doesn't have that whole management process. But for $3.50 for every 8879, we not only have the electronic signatures, but we also have the management system there as well. CCH comes in at about $5. Because they also have a product as well. So Paperless and CCH are the only ones at the moment in the marketplace doing it, but I'd imagine a few more will come to the table. But also for ones that don't require that knowledge-based authentication, only $1.50. So think about that $13 per firm, and think about per signature. Because that's not only e-signatures, I'd say that's for an engagement letter as well, chasing up those damn things. So we can see not only efficiency, but our productivity and our profitability on the engagement does increase dramatically. So there's the information for Paperless. Let's do one more poll before we call it a day. Let's launch that. Would you be willing to implement e-signatures for engagement letters and the 8879? Even if you say it doesn't allow 8879 signature, I would strongly recommend setting it up for your engagement letters. For $1.50 for the engagement letter, the 7216 doesn't require, and also for interesting comment, just as we're filling it in, from the folks over at Expertax who do the outsourcing to India, when they did electronic signatures and they required the 7216 consent, the acceptance rate from their users jumped about 30 or 40% when the electronic signatures were there. So imagine how quickly this whole process can go. Right, let's close that poll. We've got 80% voting. Let's close it. I'm going to share it. 6% of you have said no, you're not willing to implement e-signatures for engagement letters or 8879. I think you're crazy, but you guys can have that conversation and show this to your administrators, and if they don't beat you up over it, then they should. 81% willing to give it a go. 10% doesn't allow for the 8879 in the state, but definitely check. But also maybe just implement it with the engagement letters, 7216, internal documents. It will make your life a hell of a lot easier. Folks, we've got our 2020 seminars coming up. Make sure you go online. You can use the code 202025 to save 25% on all seminars and products. But we've got some great events around the country, some phenomenal webinars coming up as well, so please let us know about those. You can see my contact information in the course notes. I think there's a survey that comes after this. I'll have to double check. But give us some feedback. Let us know what works well, what didn't work well, what you want covered on webinars. And then CPE certificates, give us 3 to 5 days just to process those. We've got a couple of new systems as we're trying to automate, integrate, go paperless, and do all those good things. And it's a headache, it's a hurdle, but in the fullness of time, hopefully our lives will be a hell of a lot easier. Rick, there was the PDF, and I'll include that PDF when we send out the CPE certificates as well, or the link to it. But also, I'll send that to the audience once again. So in the chat function, guys, I'm sending the link to download the PDF of the slides. So hopefully something is flashing at you right now, and if you click on that link, you will be able to go and download the documents. But I will make sure we get them included in with the CPE certificates, that link. And also this will be up on our YouTube channel in an hour or so. Mark, sounds like we had some audio issues there. Sorry about that. Bob, I'm going to double check on the share file and get back to you when we see you in Boston. And any other questions, please let me know. Feel free to send me an email, shoot me a tweet me if you want to tweet, or pick up the phone and give us a call. Folks, have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing you in person or online in the near future. Thank you very much.